Hello, everybody. I just watched the second debate for Scottish independence, Alex Salmond versus Alistair Darling. And long story short, Salmond won. I thought the debate was pretty shit though, and there was too much interrupting, and it was poorly mediated. And as usual, it's the same rhetoric that keeps coming up and up and up. For instance, one of the buzzwords is poverty. That kept being thrown around, and it's as if Scots think that the government is the solution to all poverty. But when you think about it, we're more richer today than we've ever been, like in terms of resources and that kind of stuff. And yet, poverty by definition, I think it's something like 20% of the lowest income, something like that, something less than that. So by definition, poverty cannot be eradicated. But anyway. It's as if they think the government is a solution to all that poverty, but poverty is correlated with like single motherhood. But that won't get brought up because it's not politically correct. And then there was also food banks that got thrown up a bit as well. And the thing about food banks is the food banks are on the rise all over Europe, and it's not necessarily to do with poverty. There's a lot more going on there. It's to do with the charities getting a little bit better, and how food banks are getting more in the public light, meaning there's more people going, for instance, that kind of stuff. But you just throw around the word, if you just put a correlation. Oh look, food banks are on the rise. It looks bad and makes it sound like you're back in Victorian times or something, when that's not necessarily the case. Also, there was a question about what job-raising power Scotland would have if they vote no, which is utterly stupid, absolutely freaking retardedly stupid. You see, government does not create jobs. The private sector creates jobs, and the public sector actually gets in the way of the private sector. And this isn't a hyper-capitalist libertarian saying this. This is just truth. This is just fact. The public sector gets in the way of private sector because the public sector basically exists to put regulations on private sectors and, like planning permission, all that kind of crap, And then there was the whole Trident thing, which I agree with. I think it's a colossal waste of money. If Argentina attacks the Falkland Islands, for instance, we're not going to send a nuclear warhead into Argentina. We're going to send military. So I think that's stupid as well. A waste of money. But Trident will stay in Scotland one way or another, and the reason that is because if they vote yes, Salmond will just use Trident and the fact that it's located in Scotland as an exchange for keeping the pound or something, and that's another thing altogether. You see, Scots seem to think that they can just take the pound, and it's a bit opportunistic, to say the least, because it's like your ex demanding to share your credit rating, or else they default under that. It's very parasitical, and it's quite deplorable. And there seems in this Scottish independence referendum, there's been a sort of fuck the English. Let's just bail out on the English. Fuck them. They're oppressing us. Let's just cut and run, basically, and I might do a video on that later on, if you're interested. And I think they're on course. I think they will vote yes in September. I really do. And I think historically it will go down as David Cameron and the Conservatives as the party that lost the union. But in truth, it's the Labour Party. The Labour Party have costed the union. I looked at a poll today after the debate. It's currently 51% no, 49% yes. And when you factor in that those undecided voters who decide on a day to vote yes, they will vote. Those that are on the fence and think I'm going to vote no, or on leaning towards no, they're not going to vote in the same way that those people voting yes. So I think I think Labour is to blame, not just because of the debates. I think because of everything. It's for the past 15 years, really. They've left the country in a complete shambles, complete debt, and they could have they could have just said, well, we're going to dump Trident, we'll get rid of Trident and see if that gets more no votes. They haven't done that. They could have. There was the whole Iraq thing. That's a whole thing in itself. There's very little reason to be proud of the UK. That's what it boils down to. So yeah, Salmond won. Scotland's going to be independent in a couple of years' time, I think. And even if they vote no, it's never going to be the same again. It's never going to be the same again, because one of the things that Salmond said is that by voting yes, we'll be equals to England, the rest of the UK, for instance. And that's not going to be the case. What's going to happen, even if they vote no, is there's going to be a huge amount of resentment. And think how much resentment there's going to be in the negotiations when Scotland thinks, well, we're going to keep the pound even though we're divorcing the rest of the UK. And the pound doesn't belong to England, doesn't belong to Wales, it doesn't belong to Northern Ireland, it belongs to the UK. So there's going to be a lot of resentment, there's going to be a lot of hatred, I think. I think there already is a lot of hatred, but yeah, not good for the UK at the moment. My country is dying.